Good morning, I'm Chris Brain and this is my contribution to the Moraleta Park integration project. From the group presentation, I'm continuing on to phase 4 and onwards, but first a brief overview of the project structure. As discussed, we developed a brief to address specific problems sustainably and interdependently within the communities, where Katlego, Jock and myself aim to address childhood development, waste management and nutrition by involving as many stakeholders as possible. We'll develop each project in 3 phases: the now, soon, and later, working at larger integrated scales to address important issues quickly while giving space to speculate on spatial agency. We presented our initial ideas to key stakeholders with specific priorities for each intervention. We approached the interventions using co-creation to generate knowledge and exchange skills while responding critically to the surrounding context. My first intervention is to co-develop a modular farming system with the communities in the form of a JCP-led workshop. This could serve as a self-organized approach to experimentally develop temporary structures within the capacity of a small JCP-funded project. Next, on a community scale, the IMVELO project is the main program to formalize knowledge obtained in the first phase through modular systems, service disentanglement, and critical responses, attempting to integrate the settlement into the larger community. Finally, on an urban scale, the intention is to compile all the lessons learned and open sourcing this to the public. This IMVELO farming system could then be used in other contexts and developed independently. The challenge remains for the system to become so resilient that it can soak up its context like a sponge through its co-creation, and develop a framework for practice to interface with these open source designs effectively. Because after reflecting on the role of architects, the possibility exists to develop a new framework for implementing co-design sustainably within practice. With this in mind, we evaluated initial concepts through precedent studies. This system, the open structure system, offered valuable insights as it is an open source shared grid, like a Meccano playset, but everyone has access to the system and everyone can contribute. This provides a platform for an incrementally layered authorship that could lead to surprising results. The shared grid invites collaboration and innovation. It presents a sustainable system for its flexible use and reuse of components. We then use these principles to develop our concepts spatially for feedback. With stakeholder insights, especially regarding the lack of nutrition and adolescent social programs, we selected sites in both plastic view and cemetery view that are close to existing vegetable farms, as they will be the champions of these workshops and social gathering spaces. Thus, we developed a timeline to first spread information, execute a program in self-built temporary structures, and ensure that these resources act as catalysts for future development. For this to be effective, the temporary structures and farming modules have to be built within a specific shared grid system, i.e. being modular, built for this assembly and sourcing materials locally to establish a circular economy. This could allow for the development of a design system where functional requirements are specified, but the construction is left to the community to experimentally develop systems, and eventually even independently. The process of co-design becomes co-creation, as research-supported experimentally developed spatial interventions. However, this is a formalized approach to the subversive nature of tectonics in these settlements. At this point of design development, we split into individual projects, informed by local building technology and, albeit less, stakeholder feedback. Group members revealed valuable opportunities for social integration and addressing urban relationships. IMVELO is to be developed on private land of a temporary church just south of Cemetery View. We received an initial functional layout, which I mostly agreed with. However, overlaying Alexia and Adrian's spatial intentions revealed several spatial opportunities, leading to an initial idea of developing a building as such over 3 phases. The establishment of a construction yard first allowed for the building to be built on site in a modular fashion. Development over time allows for experimentation and, in this sense, a building not planned per se, but anticipated. The growth, however, is constrained linearly for the easy expansion of services. Integrating these vulnerable communities is not possible with just a building, but more so with building systems. Systems that create a common design language for collaboration and knowledge sharing towards a continuous renewal of space. Personally, I find this a challenging philosophy to design with and asks serious questions on the role of an architect. Upon reviewing the design, I challenged myself to remain a non-author, despite the resulting complexity. I investigated the table house by Joe Noero. This intervention is an attempt at creating local building culture and developing skills with small modular structures that give a sense of permanence in informal settlements. However, regarding my own project, this presented a few problems. Thus, I derived a few principles, such as not only targeting income groups to determine the cost of a project, but also counting other forms of social capital. Using this, one could develop a phased building model to utilize every available resource effectively, building on a human scale in terms of accuracy of construction and component sizes, and lastly, questioning what local materials really are. In the last week, designs were refined based on feedback. A meeting with actual farmers revealed many technical considerations of the design. The intervention was moved closer to other projects to utilize the bad quality of soil in this portion of the site. Phase 1 to develop basic systems. Phase 2 for commercial expansion. And Phase 3 for continual growth and expansion as needed. I took cues from Cemetery View and how they responded to a boundary wall to anticipate how the intervention could possibly grow along a linear service line, where each phase could introduce unexpected variations, additional programs, and functions, such as in this case 3 containers the IMVELO project recently received. Thus, the intervention remains in an undetermined state. Here I experimented with a graphic representation of building requirements such as stories, structural components, and a raised service line for flexible service arrangement. To accommodate a phased building approach, regular circulation routes absorb variances in construction. Eventually, not as a final design but as a vision, co-design turns into co-creation. Here I try to anticipate local building technologies built with the surrounding skills available, the unexpected materials used, and community-led programs in conjunction with the functional requirements of IMVELO. I encourage the examiners to pause here and expect a larger drawing uploaded in the addendum folder. Devil's in the detail. With local materials and building typologies, the intent was to develop a series of example joints and components to explore what a formalized open construction system could look like. This information, with additional site observations and sketches, informed an array of construction details that could accommodate the inconsistency, the inaccuracy, and availability of local recycled building materials. But to conclude, the next stage of this intervention relies on compiling lessons learned to eventually derive an open source construction system, a system that would absorb and react to its context like a sponge upon its co-creation. I intend on using several tools for processing information such as material selection diagrams and nomographs to develop an integrated self-built construction typology, taking lessons especially from Walter Siegel. However, I intend to continue with this phase of the project in the fourth quarter of 2020, since for me, questions remain on the success of my intervention so far. I can only know how to continue after observing results and experimenting physically with JCP and Winter Studio interventions. However, this is the nature of co-design. It's a continual process, not the means to a product. And despite the challenges, it's essential for spatial agency, especially in the Moraleta Park integration project, to acknowledge everyone's right to the city.